Well, there's a project I've been working on for almost 8 years. It's called Un Goutte d'Or. It's a film that's not only about the quartier in Paris called the Goutte d'Or, but it's also about the dream of young people to get out of the box that older people put them in, and to live something with a little more imagination, a little bit more heart. It's kind of based lightly on an old film from 1961 called A Taste of Honey, which was shot in England. And it's the first time that we see a kiss on screen between a white woman and a black man. It's the first time we see a homosexual overtly being homosexual in a film, in a mainstream English film. That's 1961. And one day when I was taking the metro in Paris, I was just above this section of town called Un Goutte d'Or, which means a drop of gold, and I thought of this old film, and I asked myself, what would the equivalent be for that film in France? And I thought, A Taste of Honey, Un Goutte d'Or, and that was the beginning. And it's really been a long process of trying to build a script that has some intimacy and some heart. And we're getting there. It's been a long road, but I just shot the teaser, and that's why I'm here in Cannes. The person who helped write the film is a poet. She helped bring slam poetry to France. Her name is Catherine Duval. And then later we were joined by a script doctor and a scenarist named Nessim Debiche. And it's really, there's a lot of magic and there's a lot of imagination in it. So in France, there's a tendency to do what they call a film social, sort of social films. But we wanted to have a film that was more than that, where there is a place for imagination, where there is a place for dreaming. Because without dreams, there's no future. And reality is oppressive. The present is oppressive, and we tend to believe, at least I think, we tend to believe what people tell us about ourselves. And so it's about getting out of the box. And I was a photographer for a long time. I shot a lot of work at night. Made a film called Orpheus Descending. It's a dream world, it's a dreamscape as well. But I needed to get out of a box too, and that was my old way of being, my old skill and career as a photographer. And so I began moving into film. The one thing I have to say about dreams is that in order to evolve, we always have to give up some security somewhere. Without giving up security, there's no evolution. And so it's also a bit frightening to try and live your dreams. And it takes courage and it takes faith, and that's something that I live with every day. So there's a positive side and there's a scary side to it. Last Tango in Paris, a film from 1972, still sticks around in my head somewhere. Raging Bull, 1981, still sticks around in my head somewhere. Breaking the Waves still sticks in my head. Those are films which are truly original. That's really inspiring and powerful. So, as a filmmaker, you hope to make something that speaks to other people. I will say this. I started photographing at night in New York almost 25 years ago, and I had an exhibition in Paris, a fairly large exhibition, and they asked me to shoot a film. And I'd never shot film before. And what was really interesting about that experience is I always thought I knew what my destiny was. And along comes this thing that I liked even better than the choices I had already made. And that kind of was difficult. I mean, even positive things can shake you up. I thought, everything's going to have to change, and I'm not sure I want to do that. But, the day the exhibition opened and we had that film on a 7-meter screen and we had sound from New York, because we did a lot of capture of sound in New York, and I saw 3,000 people looking at a subject that was inspired from a sense of solitude, me walking alone at night in New York. I went from a lone individual to sharing that experience with so many people. That was a surprise. That was unexpected. And people came up to me afterwards and they said, I know exactly that feeling. I've had that feeling too. Well, that's inspiring to me. That means that I've shared some little part of the universe. I have one little corner of the universe, which is our common experience. And I was able to put it out there, and it's going to exist. Whether I leave tomorrow or in 50 years, one little corner of the universe is out there. And I help make that. But I also need you, and I also need the spectator to share in that experience. And so it's a dialogue. And who can say what inspires someone and what inspires someone else, I don't know. But when people come up to you and they say, yeah, I had that same experience, you got it, that's where it's at. Well, diversity is the word, because the project happens in the part of Paris which is the most diverse. It's the immigrant sector of Paris called La Goutte d'Or for a long, long period of time. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was what they call le métissage, or la mixité en France. Maybe it's because I'm an American living in France, so I understand a little bit how it feels to be a foreigner. But I still come from a country of privilege. And when I see, I'll put it this way. Where is the one section of Paris where you're going to see children on the street? The poorest section. And they're okay. There's a certain kind of overprotectiveness in other parts of Paris that comes with wealth and influence. But what are you protecting your children from? You're protecting them from life. And so what happens is it becomes a bit dull, a bit dead. And one of the things that I love about La Goutte d'Or is not only is there the diversity, but it's vivant, it's alive. And it's alive because of the interaction of so many cultures. And it would be a mistake to assume that one culture stays its one self. It's the interaction of those cultures in that place that creates a special new culture. And that is what is responsible for the energy and growth and life in a country. Otherwise it becomes anemic. So, I think there are many beautiful things. There are some ugly things in the Quartier de Goutte d'Or, but it's alive. And ultimately, there was a philosopher named Whitehead in England in the 19th century. He said, la sensibilité sans la vitalité ramène la décadence. Sensitivity without vitality ultimately brings decadence, and vitality without sensitivity, la vitalité sans la sensibilité, brings brutality. So it's a constant exchange between sensitivity and vitality. And I think there are a lot of people that are afraid of diversity. They're afraid of the vitality because they're afraid of the brutality or the potential brutality. But I think their fear keeps them from seeing what's really beautiful and what's really sensitive in that area. And France needs that. It needs that vitality. It needs to evolve.
Clayton Burkhart, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure's mine.